Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. Thanks for tuning in. Ham Talk Live will be on the air shortly. Please stand by. This episode of Ham Talk Live is brought to you by Tower Electronics. For connectors, cables, and more, visit them at a Hamfest near you or call 920-435-2973 or online at pl-259.com.
It's Ham Radio with Neil Rapp. Here we go. Welcome to Ham Talk Live. Call in, let's talk. Neil's your guy. Ham Talk Live. Here we go on Ham Talk Radio.
Good evening, everyone. It's time once again for Ham Talk Live. It's episode number 120, Field Day Q&A 2018, recorded live on Thursday, June 21st, 2018. I'm your host, Neil Rapp, WB9VPG. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Ham Talk Live. Tonight we're joined by Bart Yankee, W9JJ, and David Isgur, N1RSN, and we'll take your calls live in just a few minutes. Last week, Dr. Ralph Fedor, K0IR, was here to talk about the adventures to Buffet Island, attempting to complete yet another DXpedition. If you missed that show, you can listen anytime. Just go to hamtalklive.com and you can listen to any episode there, or you can catch our podcast edition over on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, iHeart Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, SoundCloud, or your favorite app. And we're also on YouTube. So get your field day questions ready to go. After the interview, you'll have a chance to call in or tweet in. If you call us, I'll give you the telephone number. It's not time to call just yet, but that phone number is 812-NET-HAM-1, 812-638-4261. Or you can Skype us. Our Skype name is Ham Talk Live, and you can tweet us at Ham Talk Live on Twitter. And we want to hear from you tonight. We want to take all of your last-minute questions, and we want to open up quite a bit of time for the calls and the tweets tonight, but we have plenty to talk about. So I'll be back with Bart and David right after this word from Tower Electronics here on Ham Talk Live.
Hey, honey, have you seen the PL259s anywhere?
No, I haven't. Come on, kids. Let's go. There's just one place to go for all of your connector needs.
Tower Electronics.
Tower Electronics.
Tower Electronics.
A giant warehouse of connectors and adapters for every occasion. Thousands to choose from in every shape, size, and color. And they have antennas, soldering supplies, cables, meters, and more. Where do you go if you want to buy a connector at a fraction of retail cost?
Tower Electronics.
Tower Electronics.
Tower Electronics.
And this weekend only, take advantage of our special liquidation sale. Buy 9 solder-type PL259s, get the 10th one for just 1 penny. They make great Christmas presents. And what better way to say I love you than with the gift of a PL259?
Tower Electronics.
Tower Electronics.
Tower Electronics.
Hi, I'm Scott Cole, KB9AMM, president of Tower Electronics. I like the company so much that I bought it.
Tower Electronics, coming to a Hamfest near you or online at pl-259.com. And we're in the yellow pages under Amateur Radio Connectors.
My, wherever did you get that lovely PL259?
Tower Electronics, pl-259.com or call 920-435-2973.
Do we sell PL259 connectors?
Who is the most dangerous person in the world? A ham with some wire, a potato gun, and an idea. Now, here's Neil Rapp with more Ham Talk Live.
Tower Electronics will be in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, that's South Milwaukee, on July 7th. August 5th, they'll be in Berryville, Virginia, or go to their website, pl-259.com. Well, tonight we're joined by Bart Yankee, W9JJ. He is the ARRL Contest Branch Manager. He's served in that role since January 2016, but he's no stranger to ARRL headquarters. Bart started working at ARRL in 1985 as the editor of the ARRL Repeater Directory, and from 1989 till 2005, he was the Volunteer Exam Coordinator Manager at ARRL. He spent 10 years working in the customer service, manufacturing, sales and support, and information technology fields in the Midwest and on the East Coast after that, and now he's back with the league. And David Isgur, N1RSN, is a newcomer to ARRL and amateur radio. He became the communications manager at ARRL in October and was just licensed in April. David has an extensive background in media relations, including 20 years at the University of Hartford as the Director of Media Relations and spent 4 years as the editor of the Hartford Business Journal. He also spent 2 years as the Hartford Bureau Chief for Thomson Reuters News Service. So, Bart, David, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Neil, thanks for having us.
Well, we've been talking here about what to talk about, and again, we want to get as many questions in as we can, because you don't always have the luxury of being able to ask the source of, hey, what's the ruling on this? What's the clarification on this? And if you do that, a lot of times, you got to do that well in advance. So tonight's kind of one of the last opportunities you're going to have to ask those questions. So we want to make sure that we give plenty of time for that. But we're going to get a few of the must-do things out of the way here first. And Bart, we're looking at rule changes for everybody who's done this for years and did all the rules last year. Just a few minor tweaks again, just kind of like last year. Let's go over just what the little tweaks were to the rules, but pretty much it's the same thing.
It sure is, Neil. And in a nutshell, we approached it annually, as we do first based on the ARRL Board of Directors reviewing Field Day as an activity and determining what new or different activities or modifications to the rules are required. During this last review period, they did not have any. So as we approached the new year, we went in, we changed the dates, of course, and made some slight tweaks to the safety officer checklist just to help people who felt that it was a little confusing in some areas. Basically, we just wanted to make it clear for their use that we're looking for them to in a nutshell, attempt to meet all of the criteria, but we're not expecting them to be able to. We just want them to take their best shot at having a safe operation and answering the questions on the checklist.
And anything else?
That's it for this field day. Of course, a number of questions have come up about how things can be incorporated, especially from the digital mode standpoint, and we may address that here separately under questions, so I don't know if you wanted me to go there quite yet.
Yeah, we'll hang on to that, but FT8 I know is going to be something, and when we'll be sure to talk about that. David, Field Day is one of our biggest on-air events, and it's not just an on-air event. It's a public outreach. It's one of the times that we get to kind of show people what hams do. So what advice do you have for groups that are participating to let people know what we're doing and invite them out to the field day sites?
Well, Neil, as we talk, literally 48 hours, I guess, from or so from field day, a lot of the work should have been done already by groups to reach out to members of the media, the traditional media, newspapers, radio, TV stations, to let them know where you are, what you're doing, what you have planned. Hopefully folks have been making that contact. We've been sending out information to the PIOs throughout amateur radio to try to make them aware and give them tips and tools to do. But a lot of it comes down to now what you can continue to do on social media, to be sending out and posting information on Facebook, on Twitter, to make people aware in the general community. All of the people that are following you or that might be looking in your feeds, and there are still some reporters that are on social media as well. So it's a good way to do a last check with them. But we encourage people. There's still time to sign up and join the Field Day Facebook group that we've set up. We're adding people to that every day, so we encourage groups to make sure that they're signing up to that so that they can share what they're doing and see what everybody else is doing. It's a great community gathering point for people to be aware of.
And we wanted to make sure to mention the hashtag, because it always seems like there's a dozen different hashtags going around. So make sure you mention the hashtag.
Yeah, we've set up an official hashtag, which is hashtag ARRLFD. So if you put that on, if folks put that on their posts, number one, we'll be able to collect that, and then we can share that out over the broader ARRL Facebook feeds, and that way they can see what other people are doing. We're going to be trying to share as much as they can, so it creates more of a community. But yes, use that hashtag because we want to share as much as we can over our network, and when you put that hashtag on, it allows us to grab that information and put it out on our feeds as well. So hashtag ARRLFD.
Okay, very good. Now, this happens a lot, and this is something that Bart mentioned. Sometimes media outlets don't pay any attention to what you send them, and then you don't get anybody to cover the activity. David, should they just give up and not bother next year? What's the strategy on that?
Oh, absolutely not. And in fact, actually, I would suggest that even for a TV station or the newspaper, you could still call them tomorrow and ask them if they're sending anybody. But in future years, if they don't come this year, it may not be anything that you did. It may be that there was just so many other events going on or other conflicts that they had that they could not get there. So don't give up. Try it again next year, and also take a look at what you sent them. Maybe there's a way to punch it up for TV stations especially, give them more of a sense of what the visuals are going to be. Talk about the rigs that you're setting up, what kind of antennas, where your group is, everything that you're doing. And keep in mind, again, like I said, TV requires good visuals. So try to, make sure that you offer them the visuals, and maybe you'll have better luck next year. But I think, the thing is to keep trying. And I would also say it's important to, we obviously, use Field Day as a way to really get attention. But there are things that you can do throughout the year to develop relationships with reporters, and assignment editors at newspapers and TV stations throughout the year, so that when you send them your field day stuff and you follow up with a phone call to them, they're much more receptive to it because they know who you are. They already have a relationship with you. So I would recommend doing that as well.
And I like what you said about, don't give up because, they may have had so many other things to cover that day that, it's not there. If you haven't worked in broadcast media and journalism, you may not know that there are these things called slow news days. And so I was in Cincinnati a few days ago and was watching the TV station, and one of the top stories was that this diner chain called Frisch's is switching from Pepsi back to Coke again. Now, for people in Cincinnati, that may be a big deal, but still, I didn't think that was quite the top headline. That's what you call a slow news day, and you're more likely to get on those slower news days when sometimes, everything's happening at once, and so it may just be it just wasn't the year for you.
That's absolutely true. I mean, what we find especially with TV stations, they tend to be have fewer personnel working on the weekends, and so that there's only a limited number of things that they can cover. So if something big happens, if a tractor trailer truck rolls over on the interstate, or there's a major fire, no matter how good your event is going to be, it's going to be nearly impossible to get them because all of the TV crews are going to the fire or going to to see the highway shut down or whatever it is. So again, it may not be you. It may just be that there was so much going on that day that they couldn't get there. So, it doesn't hurt to do some, like I said, self-reflection, take a look at the materials you sent and see if there's ways that you can spice them up for next year. But also after field day, you can start contacting those people again. And maybe during the summer, you have other activities going on. You can start developing relationships with them so that when field day comes around in 2019, they know you and they'll take your call and they'll know that you're going to provide them something worthwhile. So, relationship building goes on year round, and that, you can certainly start that the day after field day is over.
All right. All good information there. And, David or Bart, either one of you, let's talk about the field day locator here for a minute. That's an important tool to find a field day location near you.
I guess I'll grab that one quick. Field day locator. So we have this great Google Maps tool called the Field Day Locator, and you can find that off the ARRL's website under the Field Day link. And when you scroll down on your page, you'll see Field Day Locator. Click on it, and you'll come up with a great interactive Google Map tool, which will then allow you to, if you're the media and you're looking to find out where there are field day locations in your area, you can type in a city and state, or if you know a little more about the group, you can also even type in a call sign and find out information about that particular group. You'll see red pins on the map, and choose one that's in your area or choose several. When you click on it, it will blow up and expand with contact information about the group that's putting on a field day near you, with the name of their group, the contact person's name and telephone number, address information, etc., to help you find one of those locations or multiple ones. And again, we certainly can't put in enough plugs here to entice the media. Here's your chance to visit multiple sites that might be in your coverage area.
Okay, very good. And one last thing here before we go and take a break and look for some calls and some tweets from all of our listeners. Theme for this year, you want to say something about that?
So as people have seen, certainly from the ham radio community, Each year we have our field day logo. A couple of years ago, the logo was associated with the National Parks on the Air activity, the brown logo with the boot symbol, which is typically a hiking symbol. This year, because we have an association with our International Grid Chase for 2018, we have the Grid Chase logo showing a checkered, if you will, moving pattern of grids with a focus of field day. So we can talk more about the Grid Chase later, but in conjunction with this year's field day, we're also promoting the year-long activity of making contacts with as many different 1 degree latitude by 2 degree longitude grid squares worldwide.
All right, very good. Well, we're going to take a break, but we're going to come back and take your calls and your tweets and Skype calls right after this word from the National Voice of America Museum of Broadcasting right here on Ham Talk Live.
The National Voice of America Museum of Broadcasting, located in Westchester, Ohio, just north of Cincinnati, is only 2 minutes off I-75. The museum is the former home of the Voice of America Bethany Relay Station. Tours are now available every Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. You can see the control room, a 200,000-watt transmitter, and the most comprehensive collection of inventions by the iconic Powell Crosley Jr. Also on display is a huge antique radio exhibit and ARRL Drake's personal collection of most every Drake amateur rig ever made. This is a unique opportunity to see amateur radio in action and have a chance to get on the air from WC8 VOA. Admission is only $5 a person. The museum is located close to historic WLW-AM and tons of shopping and restaurants. Take a trip to the VOA Museum or visit us online at voamuseum.org.
CQ Field Day. CQ Field Day. This is Ham Talk Live with Neil Rapp.
Ham Talk Live is on the air every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time right here at hamtalklive.com, and be sure to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And it's time for your calls now, so if you have a question for Bart and or David, give us a call. Phone number 812-NET-HAM1. That's 812-638-4261, or you can Skype us or tweet us. We're at Ham Talk Live on Twitter as well as on Skype. Now we've come up with some more stuff, and one of the things that Bart just mentioned are some of those public service announcements that the ARRL has, and David, you've got a couple of new ones.
We did. We created new both audio and video PSAs, which are actually on the. You can get to them right on the Field Day website, arrl.org/field-day. If you scroll to the bottom of that page, you'll see the bullet point for PSAs, and you can see both the 30-second and 60-second audio and video PSAs that people can download and provide to their organizations or to media outlets that might be using them. We were incredibly fortunate in the past year, and this isn't specifically Field Day related, but we had Joe Walsh, the guitarist from the Eagles, did some PSAs for us. He came to visit W1AW at ARRL headquarters, and he's a tremendous he's not only a great guitarist, but he's a great ham radio operator as well, and has a tremendous collection of vintage radio gear. And he's also was very kind to ARRL and to W1AW. So he gave of his time to do some PSAs for us, and those are up on the ARRL website as well if people wanted to listen to those.
All right, very good. So be sure to check those out. And we do have a couple of questions coming in. We've got a whole list of things we can talk about, but let's get to everybody's questions here first. This one comes in from KC5FM. What's the deal with FEMA Region 10 having an exercise on 60 meters during field day? Bart?
Well, funny you should ask. That was mentioned to me in passing. It's an activity that we're discussing right now for potentially for next year. We haven't worked out the details of how it might be conducted. Again, the 60 meter allocation is just 5 channels, so it's not a field day designated frequency range. But if some sort of arrangement in conjunction with FEMA and a couple of other agencies might be able to be established, who knows? We might be able to introduce some sort of an event tying amateur radio operators to, I guess for no better example, but to have some means of collecting information from these FEMA groups. I don't know if they're going to do bulletins that we would copy, or they might do transmissions. It's in its infancy right now. Anything I offer at this point would be conjecture because it's got a long way to go, and I don't necessarily know what our role might be. But that was one of the. It's come up for conversation at the moment.
Okay, very good. And I hadn't heard about that one, so. Lloyd's out there keeping track of all that stuff. 812-638-4261 is the phone number, or give us a tweet. And let us hear from you. We do have one other one that I shared with you guys earlier from Ed, DD5LP. Since it's 2 o'clock in the morning, he didn't want to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to listen to the show. So he said his question ahead of time and says, given that so many smaller hamfests are having difficulty attracting attendees, where field day continues to attract both young and old hams and non-hams, what do the experts think about maybe combining these two club-organized activities into one and have a local hamfest at the contest site, either coinciding with field day or maybe another contest. Some hamfests in Australia are still referred to as field days, so maybe they're trying to tell us something?
Well, it certainly is a suggestion, and I think, with the continuing challenge that our hobby and community has in generating enough free time for what we want to do with all the other demands on people's lives, from work to family to other society activities that they're engaged in, sometimes the question that comes up is, do we hold any event? And I'm not talking about ARRL. I'm talking about these amateur groups in general who've had their field day, if you will, flea markets, or they've had some other social events, and the turnout is limited, and they're saying, why should we bother? It really does beg the question, what if we were to start combining activities? And I will, sort of make that as the foreign focus for right now. If they're having a problem or a challenge attracting people, getting people interested, bringing them out. Certainly if we use the ARRL Field Day example, it's the largest activity we have annually, and since we track participants as a part of our reporting, we're talking about 36,000 participants. By far just blows the numbers off of anything else that goes on in United States and probably foreign amateur radio as well. So again, if these foreign communities, amateur radio groups, organizations are having a problem attracting people to join them, and if they've got 2 or 3 individual activities that have low turnouts, and you can get maybe a larger turnout out of a single one, what's the harm? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. Try it, see what happens. I'll offer one twist, and I know that this is happening maybe even more so this year than others. there are clubs across the country where they found getting enough attendance or field day was challenging. So some of them have decided to reach out to neighboring clubs who might have done an individual activity in the past and said, hey, how about we do a group activity? And I think you're going to find that on the air during this field day, where there is now maybe even more so. And if you look at the QST results, you'll see this. You'll see the names of clubs concatenated together because they've grouped as 2 or 3 or 4, even 5 or more organizations deciding to do a group field day rather than individually.
Yeah, we had that here. Yeah.
Yeah, Neil, I want to add, sort of follow up on what Bart said. I think there are some things that maybe Hamfest and others can look at what Field Day does. I think part of it is because Field Day, we keep talking about this, and it's in our promo messages and things, but it really is ham radio's open house. We pay particular attention to inviting public, and we have the go to get on the air stations set up. A lot of clubs are setting those up as part of Field Day. So I think just a reminder that to be as open and as welcoming to the general public as you can, and let them know that that's an open house. I think that's part of the reason for Field Day's success, is because we really put a lot of effort into inviting the public to come, and that may be something that folks doing smaller hamfests might look at to make sure that they're really reaching out to the general public and not just to their to amateur radio operators.
And I told you guys before, the contester says, no, you got to run that score up, you got to win. And, for some people, this is the only chance to do a multi contest. And so, you've got that too. But the thing is, there's room for all of this, and what works in one place may not work in another.
And Neil, keeping in mind that Field Day is not a contest, but secondarily, each group has to ask themselves, both from the perspective of what are we going to do socially, amateur radio-wise, and what are we going to do community-wise, is when you're doing your planning, you have to ask yourself, and this is maybe the first question to ask, is it going to be about the journey, or is it going to be about the end result destination? And how do we define those two pieces for what we're going to do?
Yeah. And I've gotten into those discussions before of, is it a contest? Is it not a contest? Yeah, okay, I know it's not a contest, but there's still a score, And so, other people use this as a social event. And that, and like I said, I think it really comes down to like you said, what do you want to get out of this? What is your goal? And so there's all kinds of opportunities here.
And I think actually, I will say, if we got time, but I think we're in amateur radio is actually in a great spot right now at the current time to increase our awareness and to bring more people from the general public into amateur radio. With everything that we went through last year with all of the natural disasters that occurred, and they were terrible things. I mean, I don't mean to make minimize how terrible things were in Puerto Rico and Houston. And the wildfires in California and all the things going on. But it did raise awareness of the role that amateur radio plays in that. And so I think it did pique a lot of people's interest in amateur radio. And so that we're finding that now when you talk to people about amateur radio, they have more awareness and understanding than we've seen in the general public in some time.
Yeah, and that's always a good thing. Okay, we've got a couple of more tweets here. Laura Goudreau tweeted back with Lloyd and us and said that we are opening the 60-meter interoperability net at the direct request of several amateur operators so they can practice on the weekend, but they are running the net a little earlier in the day so that there's only a 2-hour overlap, and that was at the direct request of several hams. So it looks like they are trying to have that opportunity there for people who can do that and keep the overlap down to a minimum. So just a little follow up there on that. 812-638-4261 is the telephone number, or tweet us at hamtalklive. We've been enjoying some questions here and some comments tonight on Twitter, so keep them coming here. Bart, one of the things that seems to always come up is what class should we be? A lot of the club stations, they're used to that, but especially home stations. So can you run down some of those harder to figure out and maybe not as used classes so that people know how they should classify their stations and setups?
Absolutely. So we want to keep the explanation simplistic to begin with. And the way to do that is to write down on a piece of paper the letters A, B, C, D, E, F. So when you're figuring what your field day exchange, your designation is going to be, you start with those letters, and then you figure out how many transmitters you're going to have used simultaneously. If you're a home station, generally it's just one transmitter. And finally, it's your ARRL section. So if I'm a home station and I'm in Connecticut and I'm going to use one transmitter, I know that my category is D for a home station on commercial power. And I know that if my home station is going to use a battery or solar-powered or a generator or hydrogen-powered or wind-powered, it's going to be under emergency power, and the category for that is E. So we've just taken care of home stations either D, commercial, or E, emergency power. Working our way backward, you've got C, and C is exclusively for stations that move. So it's a mobile station, generally just one transmitter, so 1C, and then you report the section that you're currently in while you're traveling. Working our way backwards, we've got B stations, and A and B are interchangeable only in the number of participants. So a B station is a portable station, is not at home. It has no access to the conveniences of a home station. It doesn't have access to the antennas, the radio equipment that's in the home station hooked up and ready to go. It doesn't have access to the facilities of a home, such as the kitchen, the sleeping arrangements, the bathroom. A and B are portable stations, and the idea is this is not a convenient way to set up in your backyard. This is about getting out into the wilderness, operating from a park, operating from a fire station, operating from the municipal center, operating from a mountaintop, operating from a farmer's field. These are all portable locations that are unassociated with any formal, otherwise radio station location. Carrying that on, the difference between a B station and an A station is a B station is limited to 2 participants. So an operator and a helper is 2 participants. 2 operators is 2 participants. 2 operators and a helper moves it to Class A. Class A is 3 or more participants. The typical club or larger field day group is going to be an A station. So then once they know that they are either an A or B as a portable operation, they figure out how many transmitters they're going to have in simultaneous use. That'll be the number preceding the alphabetical character. And finally, their ARRL section is the last part of the exchange. So, for example, if they're operating portable with 10 people and they're in western Massachusetts and they're going to have 3 transmitters on the air, their exchange would be 3A Massachusetts or 3A, western Massachusetts. So 3A WMA. What did we forget? Class F. Class F is EOC stations. These are stations that have formal arrangements with an EOC. They may be operating from an EOC. They may have a mobile unit that is provided by the EOC and has a formal arrangement to use the mobile station in some capacity. You know, if they have this great relationship with their own EOC and they say, hey, we have an exercise coming up, we'd like to be able to use your mobile unit, may we have your permission to use that in conjunction with the EOC? They get that in writing and they document it, and they are then an EOC station, and the same is true. The number of transmitters in their section completes their exchange.
Okay, so there you have the rundown and the clarifications of all those classes, so you know what to do. But you know, again, most home stations, if you're just plugging into the wall, 1 Delta, 1D, and then go from there.
To supplement that, Neil, one additional piece. Some people say, well, what if we're a 3AB or we are some sort of a concatenated class? And what they're confusing is the QST listings with the actual on-the-air transmissions. The on-the-air transmissions are the single alphabetical character. How we show stations in QST after the event is further defines their how they operated. If they were a commercially powered portable station, they might see something like 3AC or 2BC, for example, a portable station on commercial power. They might see 2B, 1B, which happens to be 2 transmitters, 2B, for example, would be 2 transmitters, portable operation, 2 participants on battery. So these extended class designations are only in the published results. They're not what you use for your over-the-air exchange.
Very, very good, Bart. Thank you for clarifying on that. 812-638-4261 is the phone number, or tweet us at hamtalklive. We're starting to run out of time here. We may go a little bit over tonight, but we'll get some other things in here as we can. But if you have a question, please give us a call, give us a tweet here real soon, because we're just about to end the program here this evening. But again, we'll keep going here. And in fact, we may do the short version here, the Reader's Digest version of these. Do you need to register before you operate, Bart?
Negative. You just, and this is especially important for home stations, you just get on the air, you operate, you understand what your exchange is, and you go ahead and make contacts. Groups that would like to invite the public can use the field day locator to attract the public's attention. And by the way, we have 1,504 field day sites currently registered.
Wow, that's a lot. And let's talk about modes. I did say, we were going to talk about FT8 later, so let's get that in. Any restriction on modes, and let's focus on FT8 because there is a little different way you need to do that.
Sure. So to begin, all amateur radio modes are permitted in field day. That doesn't mean they'll be easy to use, but it means that they're permitted. Now, if you carry that forward, and obviously the digital realm is now where we have it's the latest, it's the new, it's exciting. We've got newcomers whose motivations are more digital than analog. So, step forward to FT8 for the moment. We didn't put any significant promotion into FT8. In fact, we were more reactive than proactive. And the reason is because FT8 right now is not designed to be able to support multiple different exchanges in normal operation. In other words, signal reports and some other component. It's basically set up under the premise of grid squares. So an RST and a grid square is the typical reports that you will see on FT8, most often at HF FT8. Certainly the VHF contesters will tell you that FT8 has a place in what they do. There is a specific mode called North America Contest Mode. It's unique in that it only exchanges grid squares. That's not typically what you're going to find during this field day, but just be aware that if you start seeing information that looks a little weird, like a grid square that's on the opposite side of the Earth during the exchange, it probably means that one of you is on the standard FT8 and the other one's got the North America contest mode enabled, and either one of you needs to toggle that off to be able to do that part of the handshake. But keep in mind that the field day exchange that's required is the transmitter count, the class, and the section. Now, how do you do that in the current FT8, which defaults to grid squares? Joe Taylor and his group point out in one of their FAQs for FT8 that the TX5 sequence, so you got TX 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. In the TX5 sequence normally used for 73, you've got up to 13 characters of free text that can be used. So if you are using it during field day and wonder how you can exchange the required field day information, put it in TX5, so you'd say 3A WMA 73, and you hope that the other station gives you a similar TX5 response. If they don't, you can't count them as a statistical QSO for field day. That doesn't mean you can't have fun with it, doesn't mean you can't experiment with it, doesn't mean you can't demonstrate it to other people, and it doesn't mean you can't be using it in some fashion, but you just can't count the QSOs that don't have the valid exchange.
Okay, very good. Well, Bart, we're going to give you a minute breather here. David, let's talk about the soapbox a little bit and some thank you letters.
Sure. The soapbox is a great opportunity for people to get information out there, and that's it's on the ARRL website, arrl.org/contest/soapbox. That should get you to it, and it gives you a chance to put comments on. I want to spend most of my time talking about thank you letters, and I think that's important. I wouldn't say letter. I mean, I would do email notes, but obviously, just like you would thank the volunteers who came out to help you with the setup and with running your station for field day, you should send notes to all of the to any media that shows up at your event. Thank them for coming out. I would also say that if the to go back even a little further, when media show up at your field day, make sure that you're there to welcome them. Make sure that there's somebody designated to greet them, to kind of take them around and help them understand what they're looking at, because they may not be aware. They've seen your email or your press release, but and they're going to cover it, and they just don't know what they're looking at. So they'll need some guidance and some help when they get there. So make sure that you have somebody designated to help them explain what you're doing, why you're doing it, and give them some information about your field day operations. And then once that airs, I would send an email note to thank them for coming out and for helping to increase the visibility of amateur radio. And that's a great way, is kind of go back to what we were saying at the beginning. It's a great way to start establishing relationships with folks in the media. When you send them a thank you note, they appreciate that. And then they may, get back in touch with you about something else later on. So I think, sending a note, and I would do it primarily by email. You could, do a handwritten note if you were so inclined, but it's pretty hard to find how to make sure that gets to the right person, where email, at least it will get exactly who you're sending it. So I would encourage that, and that's how great relationships start. So I think those are important things to do.
All right, Bart, one last thing here, and in fact, Troy, W9KVR, just brought this up on the chat here about the GOTA station. We haven't talked about the freebies here, so everybody likes free stuff, so let's talk about the freebies for a minute.
Sure. Did Troy have any specific question about GOTA or just general?
No, just a comment. It's a good opportunity to add a radio to your regular ops, and so you can get some youth ops on and that kind of thing.
Exactly. So the GOTA station is free. You don't get too many things in life that are free, and certainly in field day, it's our free. Here's a way to provide a station that the public, that inactive hams, that newcomers, newly licensed hams, youth can have an opportunity to sit down at and not feel the pressure of, I have to make contacts because that's why we have these other stations set up. This station is exclusively there for them to get the amateur radio experience firsthand. It's an opportunity for, because there is a control operator who is in charge, it's an opportunity for any person, licensed or unlicensed, to sit down and understand the experience of making these contacts. We have an example that we showed in a photo in QST last year in the field day write-up, where we had one of the elected representatives in the Carolinas, a lady, who was operating at that field day site. She wasn't licensed. She was a U.S. representative, and she wanted to find out more about amateur radio, and they sat her down and they put her on the air, and she had a great time. They got a photo op. It was terrific. So the GOTA station is a way to earn points for your field day activity. Every 20 contacts generates 20 bonus points, up to 100 bonus points per individual. And so you can chalk up those points quite readily. Again, it's in increments of 20, so 19 doesn't earn you anything, but certainly 20 does, as well as increments of 20. We also have a free VHF UHF station, so it does not count in your transmitter count. So you decide, do we really need another station? Well, guess what? It doesn't count against you. It's free. And frankly, if anybody's been paying attention to the VHF bands right now, we had the VHF contest just a weekend ago, and the activity was boom. I'm sorry, 2 weekends ago, the activity was booming. 6 meters for a better half of the U.S. North America, mostly on the eastern side, was racking up contacts. Some of these stations had hundreds of contacts, and 2 meters has presented E-skip in the last couple of days. So, field day stations scattered across the U.S., it's often like a VHF contest. And so you will find activity on 2 meter sideband, 2 meter digital modes, MSK 144 for meteor scatter, FT8 as well, on 2 meters, as well as 6 meters, 50.313, 2 meters about 144, 140 or so, between 140 and 150. And so again, free stations, 6 meters may actually generate more contacts than 10 meters does, and 10 meters may be open. So don't rule out these higher bands. They will be activity places for your station. And again, don't. And Neil, I don't know. Do you want me to touch on the bonuses quickly?
Yeah, let's do it real quick.
So you have a number of bonuses. Starting at the VHF side, you've got the satellite bonus for making a satellite contact. You've got the emergency power bonus for stations that are running that. You've got the media publicity that David talked about. If you're in a public location, you get a bonus for that. If you have a public information table with information about amateur radio, somebody being the focal point, like the person that David mentioned, who would greet the media or the public and take them one-on-one and explain to them why we're there. A formal National Traffic System message to the SM or SEC is a bonus for that one message if you generate it from your field day site and send it out. The W1A copying the W1AW field day message, which is sent it several times during the event. Look in our field day packet and you'll see the entire schedule of field day bulletins. Formal messages. Your group can handle up to 10 formal messages. Sending them or passing them, in other words, being a relay, or receiving them for up to 100 additional points. Natural power QSOs. If you make up to 5 natural power QSOs, you get a bonus. So this would be a source other than your generator. This would probably be a solar panel. This would be a wind generator. things of that nature. But 5 QSOs have to be made with it. You'll get additional points. If you get an elected official visit, you'll get a bonus. If you've invited serve agencies officials, not that they showed up, but if you have invited them, and I should have said that under the elected official as well, you don't have to expect them to show up. You just have to invite them. You'll get a bonus just for taking that act. Educational activity. If you have and you want this bonus, you need to develop a program, a limited scope, probably just a short summary of what you plan to do, administer it. This needs to be something more than 10 minutes, probably talking 30 to 60-minute activity on something that would help them gain knowledge about certain aspects of amateur radio, building antennas, setting up setting up a digital station for maybe D-Star, or maybe some people have suggested, how do I get involved in amateur TV? I've suggested that the educational activity could be a training with first aid or AED training in conjunction with the safety officer. Again, we talked about social media. We have a safety officer bonus as well, somebody who's responsible, or a couple people who will oversee the entire event to maintain a safety outlook, a safety perspective. And not last, but certainly not least, youth participation. The number of youth who completed at least one QSO, there are bonuses for youth participation. And, we've been amateurs for a long time, many of us, and we realize that we're not seeing as many young people. Reach out to people who are interested in amateur radio, get them involved. If you can engage their family, bring them to the field date site, be their mentor. That's probably one of the primary focuses for amateur radio right now. Is we need more mentors, and that's what we had decades ago. We've kind of lost sight on that, and if we can now return to that, mentoring is probably going to be one of the strengths of helping people find their way either into amateur radio, back into amateur radio, and even through it as a new licensee, versus they get the license and then they don't go anywhere because they don't know what to do next.
All right. Well, there you have the quick version of that. Of course, all of that can be found in the Field Day packet and in QST magazine as well. So, guys, thanks so much for coming on, and we appreciate you taking all of the questions and putting together some stuff to talk about and get people ready to go for Field Day this weekend.
Thank you very much, Neil, for the opportunity.
Going to be an exciting time, Neil. Thousands of hams are going to be engaged. These are the people that don't necessarily engage socially in amateur radio any other time of the year. Maybe they're housebound. They're older hams now who just don't have necessarily the opportunity to get out, but they still find their way to Field Day.
And I've been working on Field Day as the program has gone on, because I'm doing the 3-hour-long Windows update on the laptop. So we've been multitasking tonight. We let the Windows update run, and so we're for a logging computer, we're ready to go. So looking forward to it. I'll be operating under K9IU's auspices this weekend at Field Day. We'll be over at the Indiana University campus doing that with the high school group as well and some others. So hopefully we'll hear you all on the air. So that is a wrap for this week's edition of Ham Talk Live. Thanks to my guests, Bart Yankee, W9JJ, David Isgur, N1RSN, and everybody out there in cyberspace for listening and for writing in tonight. And invite you all back next Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Marty Soloway, KC1CWF, will be here with some of the Baker Island DXpedition team, and if everything gets set up right, yes, we're going to come to you live from Baker Island next week, so you don't want to miss that. And a list of our upcoming guests is always at hamtalklive.com. So I'm going to let you all go. Thanks for staying a little longer tonight. And this is Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, saying 7375. Have a great Field Day weekend. And as always, may the good DX be yours.